afternoon, good evening to everyone all around the world, wherever you may be. How has your day been today? I hope everyone has enjoyed their day. If you woke up, then today is a great day. All right, all right, all right. I hope everyone is safe out there with all of these rainstorms and floodings, gridlock. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing what they need to do to keep themselves and their families safe today and over the weekend. Today's sound off is about the Republican US government shutdown. I say Republican because they are the majority of the House, and they have issued some extra additives to the budget. Excuse me, that Democrats don't agree with, and in fact don't feel is in the best for the country, for the American people. And in turn, the Republicans, there are a lot of grievances that they want to bear, and they want to show that in this budget. We're going to talk about whether those grievances are warranted, whether they're good or bad, whether they should be part of the country's budget for the next year or not. Before we do, let's bring in our panel. Content creator and contributor of the Weekend Review, Mike Felino, and radio host personality and the host of Vita Talks, Miss Ovita. Welcome, everyone, to today's Sound Off.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. All right.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about this shutdown that we're going through right now. It was remained to be seen, or I should say, inevitable. Last week, as the days were going down to the very last minute, that we were not going to get an agreement. Now, recently, it looks like the voting had both sides disagreeing with extending it with the adjournment. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it looks like there was a stopgap bill introduced right basically the morning that the shutdown was supposed to occur, and it looks like, as usual, someone's introducing a bill with right before a vote, so the other side doesn't have any time to review it.
Right.
So it looks like Democrats were trying to delay a little bit to try and get time to read it because basically, they don't trust what the Republicans have tried to do in this last session, and they especially don't trust what they're trying to do right before a critical vote to shut down a government. I mean, you don't know what to expect in a bill that you don't get time to read, and it wasn't even supposed to be to completely avert a shutdown, just a 45-day stopgap measure. I don't know. There's always junk in bills, and when bills come forward right before the vote, you always have to worry what's going to be in them. So I can't fault Democrats for trying to have done something to at least make sure what the stopgap calls out is acceptable, but I also can't fault them if what is in that bill is just egregious, like cutting of social services and cutting of other public important things to the public. I'm not saying I agree with everything Democrats do, but I can't fault them for trying to make sure that the Republicans aren't sneaking in something that's going to harm people long term.
Absolutely, especially because that's been the MO of the Republican Party, right? Where they bear no credibility for anything. So who can fault the Democrats for wanting to know more about this, even though we're down to the last hour.
Yep.
Because that's what some may say. Well, we're down to the last hour, and Democrats say they don't want the government to be shut down. So why are they protesting? They're protesting because we want to make sure that toilets and hot water and gas stove issues is not part of our next yearly bill. Okay, we want to make sure that they didn't throw in there that said something about Trump is a great person and all of the indictments need to be washed away. We want to make sure of that because that is their MO. That is exactly what they would do.
It was a hostage situation.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
And speaking of that, isn't that what the former president Donald Trump has? Isn't that the what he issued to the Republican Party? Shut the government down
Yep.
Unless you get concessions that allow them to stop persecuting me. So he calls it a persecution, and lay off the indictments. Isn't that what he did?
Well, that's why they want to read that. They wanted to read this thing because, to be fair, you have a Congress with Kevin McCarthy and his Fisher Price gavel in charge at the mercy of the Freedom Caucus. And then you have Donald Trump screaming that I want what I want, damn this country. So I don't think anyone in their right mind could assume that the Republicans wouldn't flat out attempt to sneak something in there. And you know what? We're at a critical point now where one stupid decision, one stupid concession could either let a monster off the hook or screw over a whole bunch of Americans. And at least I applaud the Democrats for saying, let's read what's in this thing before we vote on it. That seems radical, I guess, but it seems pretty reasonable to me. Why wasn't this stopgap introduced days ago? Why are you waiting for the day of a vote? When there's a clock ticking down on all the mainstream news sites, like it's the COVID death toll for the government shutdown. Why wouldn't you introduce this before the morning of the vote? Like that already lets you know that there's probably something in there that we need to know about.
Right. And on top of that, who's to say, Ovita, who's to say, or I should say, not who's to say, but in your neck of the woods, what have you heard the chatter being about what the government shutdown, how the government shutdown would affect the folks in your neighborhood?
Well, I know so many like child care day providers, food assistance programs. I know so many community programs that's going to be affected by this decision. I have a family. We always are giving back to the community of their church. It's a church, and then they have like a food pantry. So those things are very near and dear. I've been doing that since I've been a kid. So to see people that are going to be affected in that way is very alarming too. People not going to be able to feed their children. So they're not, and people are not going to be able to go to work. They can't go to work because they have no one to even watch the kids. But they will do it though. They're for the people that they will make us. They'll try to make it work. I know my family, but still, that's just one part. The rest of the people that don't really have that support system. I mean, it's really very alarming, to say the least.
The word support system is right. That's what the government's supposed to be, a support system. So when you threaten to shut down a support system because no one's meeting your political demands, who are you really serving?
That's right. And it brings to mind, is this really how America goes first? You're willing to shut down the government for your own personal reasons. It has nothing to do with the government. It has nothing to do with the American people. It has everything to do with their personal grievances and Trump's. And that's what you're willing to make Americans suffer over. Is this what makes America great? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Okay, let's play
this. They say the government for the people.
Yeah, right. For the people, by the people.
Right. Where do you see that in the Republicans' rationalization of what they're doing? Where do you see that? Okay.
Nope.
Let's play this clip. This is the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, pointing out the discrepancies on the side of the Republican Party as to why we headed for this government shutdown. Take a look.
Once again, extreme MAGA Republicans in the House have demonstrated their complete and utter inability to govern.
Yep.
We are in the middle of a Republican civil war that has been ongoing for months and now threatens a catastrophic government shutdown that will hurt everyday Americans, hurt children, hurt military men and women, hurt veterans, hurt seniors, hurt women, hurt families, hurt the economy. And there is absolutely no reason that we should be facing a government shutdown at this moment.
Yeah.
Man, everyone he mentioned there are groups of people that the Republicans have consistently voted against. Okay. You look at the bills, they never want to fund veteran bills. They don't want to extend Medicare. They want to get rid of Medicare. So our seniors are just dropping dead. They certainly don't care about children like they claim, because they don't want school lunches. Right. So Hakeem Jeffries yet again is showing that, again, I'm not blindly sticking up for the Democratic Party, but I'm just saying that when it comes down to it, look who the parties are vocally fighting for, because you're not getting the Republicans who were trying to prevent the shutdown for any of the same reasons that Jeffries said, right? They're just trying to say, well, Joe Biden this and the Democrats that, so we're going to shut the government down. Yeah, but who are you trying to help by shutting it down? You're not even explaining what your goal is to try and do this. You're just holding out for the demands. I don't think I consider feeding families a demand. That's a necessity.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vita.
I was saying just a humanitarian thing, just a human thing is to want to help and to feed people.
Yep.
You know, a human. Yeah.
Right. And again, my point going along with what happened to America first. Okay. What does that mean to them? So is it just America first when you're comparing it to other countries? But now when you're comparing it to, on a domestic level, no, it's Republicans first, or no, it's Trump first. Because shutting down the government does not tell me at all that you're putting America first. And the fact that Hakeem Jeffries is up there saying what he's saying is proof that there's only one side of the people, or one half of the country, that is trying to look at the rights and the needs of the American people over any and all personal grievances whatsoever. Go ahead, Mike.
I just think it's really funny when one side plays politics out in the open, and yet they're trying to say, America's first, but they're the ones that always bring up the political card. It's the Democrats, it's Joe Biden. But the phrase America first, and I'm not going to try and derail this conversation, but it needs to be brought up. The concept of America first is really just a nationalism cry, a racism cry, right? We don't want immigrants. We don't want certain groups of people, certain religions, whatever. America first really means 1950s white suburban America. So when they start saying America first, they're not talking about children, because in their mind, children should be at home, plentiful, with the wife who cleans and teaches them everything they need to know. They're not looking at a robust public education system that also provides childcare so that both parents can work, which, by the way, both parents need to work because the economy doesn't allow for one-parent households. So this America First thing has never been about helping Americans. It's a rallying cry for Americans to hate other people, so they hate other people more than they see how their own lives are suffering because of the people that are doing nothing to help them. So again, Hakeem Jeffries is saying we need to help children, we need to help veterans, we need to help the elderly, and the Republicans are like, America first. what does that
Right.
mean to them? It means nothing to them.
Right. No, I'm glad you brought up the term or the definition of America First, because when he first dropped that, 6-7 years ago, I thought the same way. America First. I understand that we may be the most powerful country in the world, but we are no better than anyone else. Okay,
Oh, thank
our
you for
shit
saying that.
stinks just the way that their shit stinks. Okay,
Yep.
we go through issues and problems here just like they go through issues.
Everybody.
But they want to
Yeah.
pretend we don't. That's the scary
Yeah.
part. The idea of America First, that America is the only great. All right, when people say America is the greatest country, I don't want to quibble with that, or quibble, whatever the word is, because it's more of an opinion than anything else.
Mhm.
Because if you
Yeah.
really break it down into issues, let's just, again, I don't want to derail it, but your point is valid. If you talk about gun violence alone, you can't say America's first. If you talk about, other issues, maybe we are first,
Yeah.
but you can't just make it a blanket statement, because all that's saying is America's the best and everyone else sucks. Well, I don't think the people that live in those countries think it sucks. Maybe some of them
Right.
do in the real sucky countries, but this
Yeah.
again goes to our international appeal. Donald Trump screaming America first, screw everyone else. That's
Right.
not going to help our
Right.
international appeal. So again, it's just this shutdown is just the latest way for the Republican Party to delay anything for the people, to delay any progress, to delay any aid, to make
Mm.
anyone's life better. It's a way to keep holding things hostage so that the tax cuts don't go to the people, they stay with the rich. It's a way to make sure that everyone's angry and frustrated and will do anything to vote for someone who they think might help them, instead of looking at the history who has helped them and who hasn't. So I just
Absolutely.
think a government shutdown is the ultimate weaponization.
Right. And as you
Yes.
say, when he said America first, screw everybody else, it's crazy as a crazy thought,
Yeah.
because here's his MO. America first, screw everybody else. And when that everybody else then says, no, screw you back, then he turns around and starts with the threats and intimidation as
Yes.
to what he is going to do as president of the most powerful country in the world, to those
Mhm.
countries that said, no,
Yeah.
screw you back. That
Yeah,
is
like
his way to getting them in line to doing what he
Yeah.
wants, even though he said to them, screw you. Isn't that ridiculous? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, but and that's on the microcosm, forget the world stage. That's literally what the Republicans have done to cause a government shutdown. They're
Right.
saying our
Yeah.
party first, what we want first. There is
Right.
no negotiation. And then trying to introduce a stopgap measure literally minutes before a vote is certainly not a good faith attempt to do what's best for America as a reach
Yeah.
across the both sides affair. So again,
Yeah.
everything that they say, it's just like who they say they want to protect, right? They're big on the border. We got to stop the border. Well, guess who's going to not be funded if the shutdown lasts for who knows how long?
Right.
Border agents. So,
Exactly.
like, again, they're acting against the lies that they're telling people. You can't have it both ways. You can't say you got to protect the border at all costs. We need to put armed tanks there, and then go, well, if you don't, stop inquiring against Donald Trump, we're going to unfund the Border Patrol. So
Right.
you're willing to risk what you consider as the greatest physical and existential threat in American history, the border being invaded, but you're going to use that as a political bargaining chip?
Right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Absolutely. Well,
Come
well,
on.
well
Yeah.
said. Absolutely. And we would wish that Republicans would talk to themselves in the mirror. Tell themselves in the mirror exactly what you just said, so they can determine where their brain cells are
Yeah.
at. Because
Yeah.
exactly like you
Yeah.
said, you can't complain about the border being unsecure and unsafe, and then say,
Yeah.
well, we're going to defund, we're not going to fund the border anymore because
Yeah.
we're upset about what's happening with Donald Trump.
Yep.
When
Right.
technically one thing has nothing to do with the other and should not have nothing
No.
to do with the other. And on top of that, if you're going to say we have a problem at our border, then nothing should stop you from focusing on that.
At least agree on that.
At least agree
Yeah.
on that. And that
Yeah.
includes it shouldn't even be an option to not have any funding going to the border, because you have to understand, with the funding, you're complaining that all these thousands of people are coming through. So how many people are going to come through when you take away the funding?
And then are they going to bus them to blue cities? And then use that as an excuse to say, look at the blue cities being overrun because you shut down the border patrol, allowed more people in, and then your Republican governors bust them to blue cities. It's almost like they're causing the problems that they say exist, so that then they can blame and point to the problems, but not take the blame for the problems.
So we just have a lot of people that don't care about people. They just care about their sector, and it's really, like they say, for the people, but it's for their people, like you were saying. It's for their people that already have. They already have money, that don't need the any of these services that they're trying to cut off. It's not going to affect them and their people at all. They are just power hungry, tantrum pulling, self-seeking people that we have in leadership. It's not about the people. Like, we really, this is why I know we talk about, but truly, this is why we need to vote and to do research on the people before they get into the office, to see how they run their lives, to see who they have dealings with, because they're not caring if people get put out. They're not caring if people starve. They're not caring if people bills get paid. I mean, it's a big trickle down effect. It's nothing small. It trickles down to everything in people's lives, that they're not going to even be able to. They don't care about someone being able to feed their baby. These WIC programs. The WIC programs. It's going to affect the WIC programs. So people are not even going to be able to get milk and stuff for their babies, their infants.
So what's trickling down is everything and anything other than what they said would trickle down. When Trump gave those $2-3 trillion to the rich folks, they said it will trickle down. It never did. Instead, it added to the deficit, which is now forcing all Americans to have to pay, not just the rich people. So I like how you said, Ovida, that it's not about we the people, it's about their people. Okay, it was okay for Trump to give trillions of dollars to the rich because it was for their people. It was not for all people. Now, where I find a problem is the people that are still supporting them that didn't get anything. I'm not understanding why they continue to support and they got nothing. And inflation is where it's at, partly due to that. So they're paying a little bit more on the dollar, because trillions of dollars has been added to the national deficit, which is slowing the downside of process of inflation. But they're blaming that on President Biden.
Of course.
Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Let's look at this last clip that we have. This is in regards to how the government shutdown that we're going through, how it's going to impact the average everyday citizen. Take a look.
We care about the government shutdown?
Well, first of all, we are going to see hundreds of thousands of government workers bear the brunt of this. And I find this to be sort of the most objectionable part. So they'll either get furloughed or they'll be forced to come into work and not get paid. So that could be, up to 1 million people. Then on top of that, active duty military will not get paid. So the people protecting us will not get paid.
Oh, man.
And on a more sort of a minor basis, but if you're a traveler, you're going to a national monument or a museum, some of the facilities could be closed, the monuments could be closed. It could get tough going through an airport. We might see personnel changes. People who don't get paid to come into work sometimes don't come into work, even if they're asked to.
Look, the one thing that really pisses me off about that is you have Tommy Tuberville, who is still refusing to confirm any of the top leaders in any of the military vacancies that are necessary to protect this country. Now you have Republicans and Democrats that are like, come on, guy, you're literally causing this country to be less safe.
Right.
And now his party is going to take away the pay for the people in the military. Who cares for the military? Not the Republicans.
Right.
Crazy.
Like it's not even a well-veiled grift. They're literally out in the open saying, we don't care who's leading it if no one's leading it, and we're not going to pay you. Do what we demand, or we're not going to pay military. So that means there is someone that could be fighting right now and get shot and killed literally for nothing.
For free.
Just as the Republic for free. I mean,
For
hey,
free.
you're getting something for free. Why complain, right? There you go.
Right. It's just bewildering. It's bewildering to even imagine. Republicans want their cake and eat it too, and you cannot have that because basically at the end of the day, it's just going to make you look dumb and stupid. Okay, to ask for one thing while demanding the other, and not only asking for one thing while demanding the other, then if you don't get the other, you're resorting to intimidation, violence, threats, and all of the sort, just so that you can get what you want. And these are the people that are asking for another chance in power to run the government. Is this how they're going to run it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, just precedent alone shows what happens when one party is in power versus another.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was looking at the military thing. They were saying there's going to be 1.3 million active duty U.S. service members that will remain on the job without pay during the government shutdown.
That's insane.
Do you think do you think that's motivation for me to fight for this country that I'm risking my life for? And now I have to worry about my kids eating at home.
Yep.
Bills being paid at home, but I'm over here. I can't even focus. How are they going to focus? And they got to worry about home.
Yep.
They should have their home covered. Come on, government.
They show you once again that they don't want you to fight for this country. They don't want you to fight for your rights. They want you to die for them. That's it.
Right.
And they don't care if you do.
Commodity. Yeah, you're not even a human being.
Nope.
You're not even. I mean, military. I know back in the day people used to treat them bad, but they should be. That's why we have our freedom, you all. That's why that's why it's never been war on this soil, is because of the people who have died and went over to other countries to fight for us. They should be. Man, I just don't understand that.
And look at the leader of the party and what he historically has said about not just military service members, but military service members who have died, right? Remember when he was in France and had no interest in visiting Normandy? Or he doesn't like when people in the service get captured, or John McCain isn't a hero because he was just in an internment camp. Like, we're talking about a party that is echoing their leader in policy.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah. It's completely terrifying. And we spoke on another show in regards to how his supporters and Republicans feel that they don't like him, but they want his policies, and so they're going to go for him anyway. With what you just mentioned, all these terrifying things that we have to deal with, and it's like they don't care about all of these terrifying things, and it's not just one, and it's not 5 to 10, it's like 100 terrifying things. I say, you know what? You can keep your money, and if you don't want to give me any more money, don't give me any more money. I'll do the best that I can to make ends meet. But there are too many terrifying things for me to vote for you, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
too many red flags.
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of them: a government shutdown, an unnecessary government shutdown. Okay, that has nothing to do with the government or the American people.
No.
By the way, government shutdown means millions of government workers are not going to have health care, while all of the senators and Congress people have health care.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
It means that a lot of people who use government provided daycare and health services, right? I mean, the Veteran Affairs Office, I don't know how they're going to do their job. A lot of veterans get their medicines and
Yes.
checkups from the VA. One thing that I forgot who it was that was talking about this, but it kind of really upset me because of the stark contrast and who this shutdown could affect. The vast the largest employer of black people in this country is the United States
Yeah.
government. Now, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's an example of institutional racism. That just happens to be an instance of people getting a job. But
Right.
I'm curious at the jobs that all of these people are holding, how critical and crucial they probably are, and what that's going to not only affect their lives, but what kind of things is that going to trickle out and damage for the long term? You have election workers like a Ruby Moss and a Shay Moss and a Ruby Freeman who were doing their job. Do you think they're going to be paying election workers, poll
Yeah.
workers? No. So our very institutions are threatened, not just the lives, but our very
Yeah.
democracy, as usual, is
Yeah.
being used as a chess piece for malignant actors and selfish people.
Right.
That's what we're seeing.
And
Yeah.
again, the question remains: are these the malignant and selfish people that we should vote back into office,
No.
or vote to stay in office? Not the way that we're going. As you can see, a government shutdown doesn't mean anything to them. So,
Nope.
what are they there for? Um,
It's the
it was brought up on a news program last week that there has been 3 government shutdowns in the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years or maybe more. And all of those government shutdowns were all done under the majority of House Republicans.
Gee, I wonder why. We don't know how to govern. We have no policy. All of our members are incompetent clowns. So the only way we can try and get what we want is by threatening American citizens. Because
Right.
they're not threatening
Yeah.
each other. Like I said, they're going to go home when they don't have a job and still be able to get their health care, right? They're still going to get their benefits. But who are they threatening? And historically, when they've done this, how many times? It's always the same thing. It's the American citizens that will suffer. It's the
Yeah.
people that need the most from their government, of which it's supposed to supply, right? We're not talking about moochers or whatever the Republicans want to say. A government is supposed to be there to help its people and its citizens. And if you're going to shut it
Yeah.
down and use it as a bargaining chip, you don't care
Yeah.
about the very people that elected you to help them. It's like
Right.
not that complicated.
And in my opinion, it's not even them using this as a bargaining chip. It's them trying to hold the American people hostage,
Yep.
because a bargaining, if you put in that word bargaining means both sides need to come to the table and negotiate, be bipartisan.
In good faith.
In good faith, that's what bargaining means. And if
You're
they
right.
really was up to bargaining, they would not hold the country hostage from a budget deal that's done every year. They would come together on an off situation. They
Yeah.
would come together, come to the table, and talk about their bargaining at that moment. But
Yeah.
Republicans don't want to do
That-
that because they don't want to bargain. They just want everything that they want for themselves, not for the country, for themselves.
Yeah.
Someone posted something on one of our posts, Mike, the other day, in regards to this topic that Republicans just want for themselves, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to abortion, when it comes to the immigration situation, that they're not into what's good for everyone collectively together, only themselves. And they posed a question that they didn't understand why they are like that, but it is the truth. It is the truth. How do you want to put America first and govern with a country that's split in half between Republicans and Democrats, but say the only way that you will govern is only doing what Republicans want and not everyone collectively? I
Yep.
don't understand that.
I feel like that's another topic for another day, and we probably have to get some clinical psychologists on to discuss that, because if not, it'll just be a lot of opinion that gets heated. But it's just, when you look historically, who has vocally tried to help Americans, who have passed laws to try and help Americans, and who have held the country hostage to help themselves. There's a stark difference, and we see it yet again right now at a critical time in our history, when there's a lot of things that need to go right for a lot of people, and one party is just refusing to cave until they get all of their demands. It's just sick.
It's just a war of the egos to me. It's the war of egos. It's and it's disheartening, and we just really, we need to care.
Yes.
Even though I feel like that all these things are coming, and all the trickle down effects and all the negative things that's going to happen. I don't think people are going to care until it happens and it really affects your day-to-day life, instead of really paying attention to what's going on around us and catching it before it happens. We need to care before then. Why are we not working on things, these decisions way before October, way before the deadline? Why are we not discussing these things throughout the year? Why are we not checking what we need to improve on, what we need to do? We might need to adjust this and that. How about having checks throughout the year? That way you can really know what we need to change. This policy is not working. We're doing too much here. We're not doing enough here. How about getting a group or getting people to really check on that throughout the year? That way, when we come to a decision, we can, compare data, compare information, say, we might not need this program right here. We need this to put this money on this side. And that way we don't have to come and do things at the last minute, and people throwing stuff in at the last minute. That shouldn't even be able to be done, things at the last minute. Who are we? We are not children. We are people that's dealing with people's lives here. Come on, do better. We people have to govern ourselves first. We got to care.
And that's voting.
And right. I was also going to say, you just said, Vita, that we're not children, but I beg to differ. Half of our political party has been acting like children for the last 9 months.
You bring up a great point, Ovita, about, I'm going to turn it from a different perspective, but it's the same point, in my opinion, is what has Congress been doing in the time that the latest session started, right, to now? Well, they've been simping for Trump the whole time. Everything is about trying to impeach Joe Biden, which, by the way, their witnesses' testimony the other day said we have no evidence.
Thank you for bringing this up.
They've been trying to fight to get rid of this, to get rid of that. They've just complaining about why the Democrats hate Trump or who this. They've done nothing but fight with themselves to try and see how much of the country they're going to give away to the Freedom Caucus and how much of the time they're going to give to trying to get Trump out of trouble. But you never see the Republicans in the past year and a half ever once go on television and go, we have identified something that the American people need, and this is our plan to fix it. No, it's always about Trump. It's about what they want. It's about rich people. It's about Elon Musk. It's about themselves. So what have they been doing? They haven't been looking forward to what Americans need because they don't care.
Gas stoves, windmills, water.
Well, and to that point, they exaggerate everything, right? The gas stove thing is not about banning gas stoves. It's saying after 100 years of having gas stoves, we realized it puts out poison. Maybe we should stop selling them moving forward, right? But no, they're going to go take your gas stoves. No, it's just misdirection and nonsense. But yet again, that's what they try and pretend is a cause for the people. They're taking away your gas stoves. How about they're not paying anyone a living wage? They could, if they're pretending they're doing something for the people, but they're literally doing nothing.
Right.
Pick a real thing.
And in these Congress meetings that they had last week, now regarding an impeachment inquiry on President Biden, their first day of that, it went nowhere. There was no new evidence, and even the conservative news stations like Fox News was saying that it was a waste of time. Every tax-paying person in that room totally has wasted the taxpayers' money because all they're trying to do is get some sound bites or to show perhaps their constituents that they're doing something, even though they know it's down a road to nowhere.
What they're trying to do is Benghazi and her emails, number 2. Because let's face it, Hillary Clinton, I'm not talking about her, it doesn't matter, but she sat for dozens of hours of inquiry and nothing came of it. But that constant hammering of her emails and Benghazi were one of the reasons that she did not get elected. But when you look at it, all those things were a red herring, right? Who were the ones that cut the funding for Benghazi when that attack happened? The Republicans. Now, I'm not getting into the Benghazi thing. My point is, it's just they continue to build these narratives that they're trying to save America through the false attacks against Democrats. They're not helping people by slandering Democrats to not get them elected, just so the Republicans that do get elected could give more tax cuts to the rich.
Right.
So to your point, Esteban, earlier, not just earlier, but you say this in almost every show we do where we talk about what the impact is that Republicans have on Americans. They continuously are voting for themselves, and that's all they care about. Every time, why are people voting for them? Why do people vote against their self-interests? Because if you convince them that they could hate the other side more, that's all that matters. If you hate them and we stop them, at least we don't have them to worry about. Don't worry that you're poor and the food stamps, by the way, are now not going to be covered because we're shutting down the government. Just as long as you know that we're trying to impeach Joe Biden, that's all you have to worry about. And that seems to be okay with the MAGA fan base, if you will.
Right. Which is insane because there is clear proof and factual evidence that they are doing nothing for the government, for the American people. Absolutely freaking nothing.
or hurting them. Or actively hurting them.
Yes. Now, there was one thing I wanted to bring out in regards to this bill that has been put on the table by the Republicans, and there was word that there were a couple of things in there that should not be in there. Pretty much. Here's a tweet that was done by Occupy Democrats, which is we love Occupy Democrats, and it says here, breaking. Trumper Congresswoman Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene launched racist, transphobic attacks against President Biden's Black Secretary of Defense and transgender Assistant Secretary of Defense. It goes on to show that what they were asking for is that their salaries should be reduced to $1, being that they feel that they are not doing anything that they want them to do, because they're doing their job.
Them to do,
but they're not doing what the Republican Party wants them to do. And then the Assistant Defense Secretary, they threw them in there because he's transgender, so he shouldn't get paid to do his job, not because he's doing his job wrong, but because he's part of the LGBTQ plus community, which is freaking ridiculous.
The Republicans always show their ass proudly. That's the worst part about it. They're proud of this. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Boebert were literally doing media tours talking how proud they were that they're screwing over a black guy and a transgender guy. Like, they're like, look at what we did. We hurt that little marginalized group that we know you hate. Yay, they did something for us. At least they stopped wokeness in the military. Like, it's just despicable. I've run out of words to call them.
Right. Yes. I did a tweet the other day that said something about, years ago, Republicans screamed about being called deplorable. Is this not deplorable? That was my
now they're proud of it. Now they're proud of it, right? There's video of these people going, we're proudly ultra MAGA, because the cult has now become not just a cult, but it's become an ideology and a self-identifiable way of life. These people believe they are part of some sacred cabal movement that is going to save America because of all the people they can identify that they hate, and all the people that are trying to pass laws against the people that they hate will somehow make their life better. So if we shut down the government, don't forget, I've watched a lot of interviews of MAGA people, right? There's a lot of accounts on Instagram and TikTok that like to go and interview MAGA people because it's funny. They're ridiculous. They could barely get through a complete sentence. But in the last week or so, they'll be asked about government shutdown and they immediately pivot because they've been trained to not listen to what they're being asked or see what's in front of them, but they're just pulling up the automatic responses that have been groomed into their, all right? So they don't go, oh yeah, the Republicans should really make sure we don't shut down the government. They're like, well, the Democrats won't, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but the Republicans are in charge. So if you want to blame the Democrats when there's a shutdown that they are in charge of or own, fine, I'll agree. I'll back you up with that. But don't ignore the party that you love that hates the people you hate doing the same thing.
Right.
It's they're not even aware of what's going on because they've been so brainwashed.
And speaking of doing the same thing, there was a question that was posed by one of the fantastic Democratic congressmen in one of those stupid meetings. They posed a question to everyone, and the question was, should Hunter Biden and Donald Trump both be held responsible for their for whatever for the alleged accusations? Raise your hand. Every Democrat raised their hand. Not one Republican raised their hand. Outrageous. So they didn't raise their hand because Donald Trump's name was put into that question. If the question was, should Hunter Biden be held responsible, all of them would have put their hand up. But because the question was, should Hunter Biden and Donald Trump be held responsible, nobody put their hand up. I can't believe it. I can't. I'm done. I'm just done.
I could give them points for being loyal. You
Yeah,
talk
right.
about loyalty. I can give kudos for that. People always talk about loyalty these days. I've found that no matter what their party does, they gonna stick by their side.
Republicans
No matter how they
need an island to
Republican
themselves
Party.
so that they can be loyal
Yes.
to one another.
Look, I've been
Yes.
saying for years, Texas historically has never been happy to be part of the United States. They've always wanted to be their own entity, right? So we let them build a wall around the entire state of Texas.
Yes.
And everyone who wants to go live in the Republican hell with no health
Yeah.
insurance, right? With just one religion that can be interpreted however they want, with no rights, no brown people, they can go figure that out on their own. And the rest of us can just live in peace.
I get your point on that, but then we got to worry about our Houston brothers and sisters, and
no, we'll pay
Yeah.
for that. No. I will say with honesty, I would gladly have some of my tax dollars take all the human beings with rational minds out of Texas just so we can help them, because I know there's a lot of people that aren't happy with what's going on in Texas or Florida. I'm okay with using some of my tax, just like I'm okay helping someone with cancer get treatment with a penny of my tax dollars.
Right.
I'm okay with relocating people, right? There's a lot of land in South Dakota. Let's go move them there and turn that place blue.
Right. I would too. I want to go back to the dollar thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Bobart saying that the defense secretary should get $1 for the work that they do. And I wanted to point out one of my tweets that I made in response to what they said. Here's what I said. How about reducing Marjorie Taylor Greene's salary to 0? Because dick pics are more important to show in Congress than class. And in 8 months, not one bill has been passed that helps the American people. Do you agree with this statement?
No lie.
Do you see me?
I mean, look, all you did is point out empirical evidence. You didn't make an opinion
Exactly.
there. You literally just said what we've been seeing,
Yes.
which, fake news, fact, scary, booga,
Right. It was fake news, everyone. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah. But it wasn't fake that she held up a picture of a new
no.
Hunter Biden. It's not fake that it's been 8-9 months and not one bill has been passed that's helping the American people. It's not fake that she's asking that the defense secretary of the United States of America be
What?
paid $1. And it's not fake that she yet again is establishing how Republicans are so against the LGBTQ plus community, which
Boy, they
means
hate that.
they are against Americans because they are all Americans, and they are against unification, and are for vision, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. They don't
Yeah.
want one America. They want one America the way they
Right
see
to
it.
choose.
Yes.
Oh,
They
that's
hate that.
the
They
side.
hate that.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Ovi. They hate the right to choose.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you give people the right to choose, they're going to choose what's human, what's compassionate, what's reasonable, what's based in reality.
Most of us would. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And do you not know that Donald Trump is the one that started all of this? Because some people say, how has politics become so volatile and divisive?
Yeah.
That's because on the first day that Trump became president, everything became Democrat or Republican, Republican
Yeah.
or Democrat. If someone spoke up against the one Republican, it wasn't a right or wrong situation. It was the deep state. It
Oh,
was they're
yeah.
against me. So
Yes.
so if you go and steal, and somebody said, "Oh, look, he's stealing." He's not pointing out that he's stealing because it's wrong. He's pointing it out because you're a Republican.
Yep.
That's
Yes.
how this started. When it needs to come back to right or wrong. They're talking about the Department of Justice is weaponizing their authority and their power. No, they're not. They're doing their job. It just so happens that you are a Republican. Bob Menendez has just been indicted.
Yep.
Crickets from Republicans. You don't hear nothing except the
No,
fact that
you're
they
not.
want him to stay in office, so that as long as he's in office, they can use him as a ploy or an example or defense against why Donald Trump should not be going through what he's going through as well. But the facts remain. Menendez was indicted by the Department of Justice, period. In other words, and a grand jury. Which
For the same as George Santos, by the way, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Which means there was some kind of evidence that is bearing enough for them to go through this process of indicting a sitting senator, and they did it anyway.
Well, that's what they don't understand. One of the things that's always bothered me is and why it is a cult. It's beyond a cult of personality. This is a true cult because they really, really believe that there is a fundamental difference that means the Democrats are just weak and they're stupid and the Republicans are brilliant and smart. But at the same time, they'll say, oh, the Democrats and Joe Biden, they're running this cabal. They're trying to organize the deep state. So are they stupid or are they smart enough? But you can't have a MAGA or a Republican politician even acknowledge that difference because they don't see that. They don't even see the hypocrisy in it. I don't know. But and you see that being echoed in Congress, right? We're gonna tell you what you shouldn't have or what you shouldn't do because you're trying to screw us when they're the ones trying to screw everyone else. It's just misdirection and nonsense.
Misdirection, nonsense, deflection, all of that stuff is what this is. This is.
Yeah.
Ladies and
none
gentlemen,
of them should be getting paid in.
No.
Boom.
No. Ovita, we can't hear you. But I think what she was mentioning is that none of them should be getting paid.
None of
Go
them
ahead.
should be. While they talk about $1, you all should get $0.
Right. Especially while we're undergoing a government shutdown. There actually should be a law or a rule that if the people we put into power causes a shutdown, they should not get paid as well. And not only should they not get paid, they should not get paid at all. Screw furlough
At all.
low.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just
No,
that's
They
it.
at
should
You're
not
all.
done.
get paid at all.
At
Maybe
all.
that might change their minds in
Yes.
easily allowing a
Yep.
government
Yeah.
shutdown that is obviously affecting all of Americans, but not them.
And
Thank
can I
you.
say, I'm sorry. No,
Yeah, go
right
ahead.
quick, I wanted to
You got
say
the last
because
word.
I think leaders should lead by example. How about you lead by example? How you should deal with
Yes.
not having income and
Yes.
not being able to pay and do. I mean, how about that? You will know how it feels. You are in leadership. You are the head, so you should suffer first.
Yes.
Bingo.
Dip into your own savings to have to put food on the table for your family.
Exactly.
Well,
Okay.
you know,
Cut
that
down-
Yes.
that
Go
comes
ahead,
to one word.
Mike.
Sorry, that comes to one word that they are incapable of understanding: sacrifice.
Yes.
So you bring
Yes.
up, Ovita, the ultimate, in my mind, crux of this whole thing. They are elected by us to serve us, but when it comes down to it, we will suffer and they won't, because they don't want to sacrifice, because it would be an intrusion on them. It would negatively affect their lavish,
Right.
privileged lifestyles. And since we're all used to suffering, screw them, they'll be all right.
Right.
Sacrifice is what it's supposed to be about.
Absolutely. And with that, Mike,
Great
you got
leader.
the last word. Thank you both, Mike and Ovita, for joining in on this topic today. This was fun, actually. This was
Mhm.
fun. This was the first time
Yeah.
between us three, and we definitely have to do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anytime.
Stay on the sidelines for a second. So we went through the entire situation in regards to the government shutdown. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that may not have been mentioned that should have been brought up, but you get the gist of it. The gist of a government shutdown is never positive for anyone, especially military veterans, especially families who now have to worry even more about where their next meal is going to come from. It's all sad all around that politics can get in the way, and blame who you want to blame. The point is that the government is shut down, and these things are happening. They're facts. However you want to spin it. So we hope that the government shutdown is at minimum, and that where there's not more bad things and bad stuff that's going to come out of this, because the longer the government is shut down, the more bad things and negativity will come to the American people. Thank you to Mike Foligno and Ovita for joining me on this sound off. Please like and follow at the Esteban Hour on all social media platforms, and please share the live. I love you all for joining in. I thank you. If you've got any comments or questions that you have in relations to this show or any other show, please do not hesitate to send them in. We do our best to answer all comments that we receive. We want to mention that we will be back as our coverage continues tomorrow for another sound off. We're going to be talking about the new revelations with Tupac Shakur. It looks like they've indicted someone for his murder, which happened 27 years ago. So we're going to look into that and talk about that, given our opinionated talk in regard to that. Please, everyone, have a blessed week as we go on to the week. And again, thank you for joining us as our coverage continues. If you have a goal that you've achieved or accomplished, don't forget to say to yourself, this is how